The planning of public open space in London began with the Romans. They chose a lovely riverside site for the city and built a grid of streets, a forum, a garden for the governor, and perhaps a religious precinct in the southwest corner of the city. But London's green space planning should be traced to Henry VIII and should be as famous as his wives. Henry loved hunting and bought land to make a strip of parkland as big as the city running west from Whitehall Palace. Access was only for Henry's friends and family, but most of the land came to be opened for public use in the 17th and 18th centuries, and it now forms the core of London's central royal parks. John Claudius Loudon, in the early 19th century, laid the foundations for a landscape architecture profession. Loudon saw the need to integrate open space planning with urban growth, as was later done for Central Park in New York. Loudon's idea was that London should expand through alternating rings of city and landscape until one of the zones touches the sea. This is the graphic origin of London's green belt. Ebenezer Howard, in 1898, proposed a green belt ring to control London's growth and provide for a wide range of open space uses. He influenced Unwin and Abercrombie, who persuaded governments to adopt the plan and give London its present green belt. Raymond Unwin, in 1929, proposed the use of green corridors to link central London to a park belt rather than an agricultural green belt on the periphery of London. Patrick Abercrombie, in his 1943-4 London plans, combined the green belt and green corridor ideas to create a London-wide green web, which he thought of as a park system. His open space diagram has beautiful and persuasive simplicity, as does his objective. It was to make it possible for the town dweller to get from doorstep to open country through an easy flow of open space, from garden to park, from park to parkway, from parkway to green wedge, and from green wedge to green belt. This is pure urban poetry, and should have been quoted in all subsequent open space plans for London. But it wasn't. Neither the London County Council nor the Greater London Council were interested in connectivity. They preferred the unrealistic goal of planning a standard 7 acres of green open space for every 1,000 people. Part of the problem may have been that Abercrombie's ideas for making the connections were not so good. Most of his connections were wide verges beside arterial roads, notably beside the B Ring Road. The next linkage idea, dating from 1977, was the South London Green Chain. Though supported by the GLC, it came from the work of Roger Warhurst in Greenwich. The chain looks great on the plan and the notice boards, but has one big flaw. Most of the links were nothing more than signposts on dull suburban streets. They have no appeal to recreational walkers or cyclists. Most park users have no more desire to walk to another park than users of swimming or football facilities have to walk to the nearest pool or pitch. The Blue Ribbon Network, launched as part of the 2004 London Plan, was a better idea. The aim was to protect and enhance the biodiversity and accessibility of London's rivers and canals. This included the Thames, which until then had not been regarded as a public open space. The next linkage idea was to make a green grid. This was proposed for East London in 2006, I think by John Hopkins of LDA, and then an all-London version was adopted in 2012 by the Greater London Authority, the GLA. The aim was to create a network of green spaces and of features such as street trees and green roofs. So, 69 years after the Abercrombie Plan, London came close to adopting its principles. But the meaning of green in Green Grid is vegetated rather than environmentally good. So the Green Grid, like the Abercrombie Plan, is conceived as a single entity. It should be planned as a composite of overlapping layers, with different functional and spatial geographies. In addition to policies for biodiversity and recreation, a green strategy for London should include a policy for creating and improving long-distance walks, like the Thames Path, the Jubilee Walk, the Capital Ring and the London Loop. A policy for giving London a better cycleway network than Amsterdam. It's a good ambition to have. A policy for improving squares and creating pocket parks, each with a different character and different role, depending on its context. A policy for encouraging local people to make green streets and garden streets, and for linking them up to form a citywide green transport network, for walking, cycling, running, and perhaps horse riding. A policy for a London-wide extravaganza of living roofs. Some should be public, some should be private, some should be gardens, some should be wildlife habitats. All should be quiet, peaceful and sunny. A policy for river and riverbank reclamation throughout London, with a particular focus on the Thames Stairs and beaches. And a policy for greening private open space as well as public open space, so that surface water can be managed sustainably to prevent flooding throughout the catchment. This would be a much appreciated public good, as would most aspects of a London landscape strategy. A key theme in this list of policies is that, as well as the Green Grid, which is a leisure network, London needs a green commuting network. As Abercrombie might have said, it should be possible for town dwellers to get from their doorsteps to shops, schools, stations, bus stops and jobs through an easy flow of environmentally attractive footpaths, cycle paths, greenways and other public open spaces, both hard and soft.